Hey y'all, it's Renegayde, and I hope you're ready to spill some more reality as we begin part 2 of our now 3-part premiere podcast for RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 9. Let's get things right away and introduce our legendary, beautiful benefactresses who will be keeking with us tonight through all of the stars, style, and spectacles of episode 1 Drag Race Queens Save the World. Let's first welcome the BB Zahara Benet of RuPaul's Renegade's Drag Race, Whiskers. How are you feeling tonight after this premiere of the most charitable season in history of RuPaul's Drag Race? And I want you to speak your truth, Mama. Don't sit on it, okay?
What do you mean don't sit on it? No, I'm feeling good. I have enjoyed the episode. Speaking of Renegade's Drag Race, I am still waiting on my Benefactress badges in the mail. Maybe we could talk about that later, but
I mean, I will gladly give you some badges in exchange for that prize money that we gave out there instead. So as soon as I see the return check in the mail, you will get your badges. Done. Okay.
okay, maybe I'm fine without badges.
Maybe for season 3, if we ever get around to it, we'll bust out some badges somehow. But then I have to dox everybody and get their information. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know if everybody wants their
pros and
badges in
cons.
person, but or we give them out at TwitchCon, something like that. I don't know. Uh, ideas though. Also, let's go ahead and welcome back the Raven of Renegade's Drag Race, QuackrrJack. Jack, how are you feeling tonight now that we've had a taste of the ninth season of Drag Race All Stars? And do you think we're about to eat this season?
Um, some of us are definitely eating this season, and some of us are still dealing with the fact that there's some rigamortis going on. But I think it was an interesting first episode. There were some really fun moments, and there were some really produced moments. And so I thought that was fun. So it'll be fun to see how they navigate this competition and trying to keep it similar to All Stars 7 when they try to kind of balance out the badges and stuff.
Yeah, I'm very kind of excited to see where we kind of go from here, because it's an interesting group of queens here. I think they're all very talented in their specific areas here. A lot of them might be more multifaceted than others, but I feel like for the most part things started out pretty well here. And I think Rue is feeling the charity theme, so I don't think she wants the fans to go hungry, at least not just yet. So I think it was a pretty solid premiere for the franchise. And as Wisk said last podcast, was a very refreshing premiere, I think, in a lot of ways in comparison to seasons like 5 or 8, to the point where I don't really have anything but good things to talk about here. So I'm kind of feeling like the judging panel is for the season so far because I kind of felt good about everything watching it last night. So there was things maybe I would have changed here and there, but overall I was fine with the premiere, but we've literally waited an entire podcast to get anything, so let's not waste any time and just get right into the action here. So where we left off, we have our 8 queens entering the workroom, and we learned the non-elimination format from Rue. Just as a reminder, our top 2 for each challenge will earn a beautiful benefactress badge, and will lip sync against each other to earn $10,000 for the charity of their choice and the power to cut off someone from earning a star for the next week. It's important to note that this does not block them from earning the $10,000 for their charity or cut off the power or get the cutoff power for the next week. It just cancels out the star they would have had if they would have earned it for the top 2 here. We also learn in the finale our top 3 with the most beautiful benefactress badges will then compete in a final battle for a 200K for their chosen charity. Now that we officially know it's a top 3 in the rest of the format here, Wizards, what are your thoughts on the thoughts that we're officially moving away from the top 4 lip sync for the crown winner that they've done in All Star seasons past, and instead this finale will be closer to like Drag Race 16 or even All Star 8's ending.
I'm interested to see what they do in an all-star setting for just the top 3, because I feel like just in general in all-stars and the regular seasons we've been so used to the lip sync smackdown. I'm all for moving away from it in the regular seasons for sure, just because I think it had its moment, it served its purpose, but we need to keep things fresh, and sometimes keeping things fresh is going back to the way it used to be with the top 3. So I think they could have done it either way, for this season for All Stars 9 in particular. I almost said 8. Wow, still in last season. But
There's just
I
so
think
many.
Yeah, oh my god, there's like 57 Drag Race seasons around the world, and remembering all the queens and keeping up with it. RuPaul doesn't even remember all the queens' names, which
I
is
mean, I
fair,
feel that sentiment
honestly.
here at this point.
Yeah. But yeah, it could have gone either way for me, and I wouldn't have been too mad either way. But I'm always happy for some change, so we'll see how it goes.
Jack, I mean, it seems like most of the fan base, from what I've seen, is kind of grown tired of the lip sync for the crown format. I'm not sure if you agree overall with that sentiment, and are you excited to see a different way of determining our winner here?
Um, yes and no. I like the lip sync for the crown for some aspects, but what I have to say is, I think it'll be another challenge that only the three either participate in, or like those three have to move up to the final two. Because I really don't want to see another final three lip sync if we can help it, unless there's a really good reason to have one. Because it's really hard to focus on a lip sync when it's three people instead of two. So I'm really hoping that we don't have a final three lip sync because we
Oh,
don't
that would be
exactly
disgusting.
know what's going to happen. Right, exactly. Like rough. But I'm a little nervous because if we're doing a 5-3 split, it kind of gets rid of that idea of like the queen of she done already done had hers is. And I'm like, if we're not going to do that like we did that on the all winter season, I'm like, what does that mean for the other five girls? And is there a possibility that they could still earn like a bit of money for their charity, or is it going to be split up between the top three girls in some kind of like consolation prizes for like runner up and second runner up kind of scenario?
I think it just means we just don't have a secondary prize here. I think the finale is just probably going to be like three performances, like you said, three performances from our each of the final three, and then maybe they narrow it down to two, kind of like they did in 16, and in the top two lip sync.
Oh
Um,
god.
yeah, I feel like, at least for me, the lip sync for the crown format felt like production's best way for them to kind of control the outcome and the narrative of a season. And I just look to like UK versus the World 2 as just like a prime example of they can basically just control however they want to see fit to get people to the end for the finale. And then just decide if they want to choose or not, if they want the final lip sync to matter. Which most of the time it doesn't matter. Usually they just kind of go down to like fan reception to determine who the winner is in these all star format situations here. So I, for one, am not upset for them moving away to this different format here. But I think what that does kind of open up too is, and a lot of the times where we did have a top three anyways, it kind of felt like, like I kind of look back, like Bianca kind of felt like she was going to win either way over Adore or Courtney. Like she was probably the front runner going into it, even though the other two were strong. Same thing kind of like with Violet, even though there's a case to be made for Ginger. Bob, I think, was the front runner in that top three. So it's not to say that we still aren't going to end up with, a very, easily way for them for to still get who they want as the producer pick to win, out of the top three. But um, the only thing I'm hoping for in this, to be honest, is they don't do some stupid mega challenge at the end of this with a talent show and give 8 stars to who wins it. Like I'd be so mad. Would be so mad.
Okay. That was like a necessity based on what they had done that season beforehand, so
I mean, I'm
I'm not
not mad
complaining.
because it did benefit Shay, and I love Shay. And she
I
did
mean,
give, I think, one of the best live performances of all time with her All Stars performance. I get, well, semi-live since it was live there. And it was technically lip sync, she didn't sing, but whatever you want to call it, one of my favorites of all time. I don't care. Uh,
I I just have to add in that I really hate when they do the top girls do a performance number and then we're gonna pick the top two girls out of those top three or four. Like that's one of my least favorite things ever because it doesn't matter about the performance, nothing matters, and they already know who they're gonna pick for the final two. So it's just like kind of shitty. So I really hope it is not that. I hope
I'm
it's
like,
an actual challenge where they have to judge each other kind of thing, possibly.
or you could end up with a situation where like production is basically semi in charge of what you're doing, and you end up with a song like Bodysuits. which is still like the most like I still like I get it now, but like at the time I'm like, what am I watching? Like it was just I feel like you could very easily and even in like I want to say in Canada's Drag Race 4, I feel like when they all had the same track, it still felt like a few of them felt much better produced than others. Like I'm looking at Venus's and Aurora's and I'm like those two felt way more produced than the other two. So you know, there are lots of ways that we can kind of get into here. Whiskers, do you have a specific format you would prefer for this finale here?
Um, I don't know. I agree with you both how the lip sync with more than two queens is not ideal, just for mostly from a viewership perspective. So I don't know. I think the way it has to be decided kind of has to fit well with the season. I don't know if it always does. I feel like it maybe almost rarely does. Like fit super well with how the season went. I think regular season 9 was the original lip sync SmackDown, and obviously they wanted to make up for some lackluster lip syncs, so that's kind of why we got that. So that felt right, and we had the iconic moment, obviously, with the rose petals and everything. So I think it might work for this season because it's kind of a shift from what it has been. So maybe they shifted it for a reason. If they have a good plan, or it could just be a flop and it's like, okay, we're gonna have the 3 final queens lip sync and then that's not gonna matter and we're just gonna decide who wins anyways. Yay. But I don't know. I don't know if I prefer one or the other really.
I think you're right. Whatever the ending is, hopefully it kind of sets a good tone here. And one thing that actually popped into my head, because I completely forgot that this type of format of finale existed. But what if they do a All Stars 6 format where they all lip sync, but they all do it individual?
I'd be okay with that. That would be a better ending than let's guarantee let's make a final three just to make a final two on who we feel like should be the final two as opposed to like a challenge race thing.
I think that was better than watching them all like clunk around on the stage together, but I didn't love that. I don't know. The All Star 6 one. I
Mhm.
love that Kylie won, and I love the drama of the falling moment. But I don't think I don't know. I mean, I'm just anti lip sync with a ton of people on the stage.
I
Yeah, I
wonder if
agree.
maybe we're just gonna flash back to the music video finale. There's so many different ways that they could end here. But I don't know if any of them necessarily will leave everybody completely satisfied 100%. I think there's always going to be that one person that's going to scream out riggery one way or another. So, you know, as fans, I think it's hard to keep us satisfied. But I hope whatever they do here is fitting for the finale here. Sorry, Jack, if I cut you off. Is there something you wanted to add here before we switch topics?
I do have a point. What about a revival of All Stars 3 voting
Oh,
at the end?
and we just rig at the end. I wouldn't mind
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
that actually
Oh,
if it
really?
was a voting situation where they were voting from the start. Like actually, I love the idea of All Stars 3, but I wish that they knew going into it that it was going to be a jury situation. Like I think that is the issue with it that they just sprang it onto them at the last second. And I think you have to know going into it, much like Survivor, that if people are going to be eliminated and you're cutting them out and they're going to have a hand in your fate, that we need jury management, okay? Shangela could have had amazing jury management, okay? Justice for Sandra.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not for the the voting thing coming back. Really, I think it was butchered the first time, and it should just stay for that season only. And I think with a season like this, with the charities, the voting thing, it might become it might come down to morals, which I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing when it's for charity. Like, would people just vote for the queen they think did the best, or would they vote for what charity they want the money to go to? I mean, I think either way, it's not a bad result because, like, at the end of the day, it is all just for the charity. But I don't know. I don't think that would fit well with this season.
Yeah, I don't think the season is about voting per se, otherwise we would have, a couple more queens and they'd be voting each other off. I think it's much more about the us saving the world through drag and letting everybody know, hopefully that, there are much worse things in this world than dressing up in a dress and a
Yeah,
wig.
there's yeah.
True, it's the worst. It's the worst ever. And for that here, let's go ahead and continue talking about it. We'll finally get to our first mini challenge of the season, which, of course, in true All Stars format, the competition begins by having the queens read each other for filth, as the library is open, mother. And I've got to say, this could maybe be one of the best reading challenges, especially one of the best I've seen in recent memory. I would need to go through and actually like watch them all and really rewatch them all, but I feel like we've hit like a string of like maybe really lackluster ones lately. This one felt like it hit on a lot of here. Like I felt like I was chuckling for the most part from everybody other than Vanjie here. Whiskers, I'll start out with you here. Do you have any thoughts on the reading challenge and any reads that stood out to you?
I thought it was a really good one. Like you said, we have had a lot that have felt kind of just lackluster, and it's been really sad. Like, as the reading challenge is something that was so looked forward to on every single season. It's one of those staples, like the Snatch Game. And to have it kind of not pop for a lot of recent seasons has been really disappointing. Um, but this one, it was pretty solid throughout. There wasn't anybody. It might kind of tie into how this is a season where everybody's going to stick around the whole time, so they don't really negatively or want to edit anybody really negatively. Um, but I thought that for the most part, people were pretty solid. We had some that obviously did better than others, but as far as my favorites, I thought Gottmik did really well. She had a couple good ones. And Roxy, of course, I thought did great. We knew Roxy would know how to read pretty well at this point, but I would say those were my two favorites probably.
And Jack, how about you? Any standouts in the reading challenge tonight?
I mean, obviously, you can't read the doll, so I was really expecting the doll to like come through, and she did, and she did. Also, Gottmik did a great job at reading, and Juria did a pretty good job for the most part. For like what they showed, you know how we only got two or three from each person, so you're like, I want to know what the other one said because I want to know what everyone's read was because I actually like it when there's some flops, like when Vanjie kind of was like, put in the laugh tracks behind mine, like theirs got. Like
She
I
definitely
love
needs
when
laugh
he,
tracks.
you know what, reading is an art. It is a very important skill in my opinion for drag. So I love that as a challenge. I think like you said, it's a staple. It's like my favorite mini challenge. So I mean, we need that good like little bit of just fun shade. The girls flirt each other, but there's still love at the end of it all.
It felt like a very fun way to start out the season. I think my top three, just kind of, if I'm going for one from each different girl here, Angeria, she made me cackle when she goes, "Got Mick." Well, when it comes to talent, she ain't got much. That was cute, really cute. My favorite from Gottmik is, I mean, it's a tie between her comparing Vanjie's alcoholic black liver to RuPaul, and Roxy working at the club that only pays in empanadas. I think those were both just hilarious, hilarious. But I think my favorite read has got to be Gottmik's transition from fan favorite to Violet Chachki's assistant. I thought that was perfect. Perfect. Roxy did so well here. And I definitely could have seen it going to Gottmik as well too, but I definitely agree that Roxy it did. I feel like she had the most ones that maybe were personal to each other, to specific people. So I definitely am not mad that Roxy is declared the first challenge winner of the season. Even if it is a mini challenge. So, do we agree with Miss Roxy's win here? Is it deserved?
Oh yeah,
Definitely 100%.
absolutely. And she got some charity money already too, which is cool.
Yeah, that's legit.
Great way to start the season there, especially for knowing what she's playing for here, which I think they do talk about it a little bit here in the episode here. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about this season again is that we get to learn more about these charities that we didn't know about before. So I'm glad to hear that again hers is a Miami-based charity for LGBT, and it's just it's good to know because I mean there's other ones like Trevor Project, things that you are well known that are more like worldwide. But the fact that she's playing one so close to home, I think again is really good for Roxy here, and I think you could see the motivation for her to wanna keep going for her charity here. And kind of in line with that here, we also get the rules for our first Maxi Challenge for the season, which is the queens will write lyrics and choreograph their own performance to the new Drag Race anthem, Drag Queens Save the World. What are our thoughts here on the opening challenge being the girl group challenge? And Jack, I'll start with you here. Who do you think initially is going to kind of stand out here in this
Um, so I have a couple ideas about it's a girl group challenge. I don't think the looks during the girl group challenge are like as important as the performance. So in that regard, I think Georges is really gonna stand out here because she does lip sync and dance like better than probably anyone on the cast overall. Like if we have to give a ranking for everyone, that is her number one talent. So like excited to see her. And I'm biased, but Miss Roxy Andrews is here to make it clear, like I want to see her do it again, be memorable once again, and leave us all wanting more.
challenge? Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I think at least when, at least to your point there about the outfits not mattering, at least in this type of girl group challenge when they're all kind of performing together, because it's not really, I would say this isn't really like girl group, this is more like medley kind of thing. Like when you see at the drag show when they have like, all the, like an opening number, a closing number or something, like something tells me this is going to be probably something they're going to do on Work the World at some point. So like I assume they'll probably open the show now with Drag Queen Save the World. But yeah, I mean, I totally kind of agree with what you say for the most part here, Jack. Whiskers, how about you? What did you have any thoughts here as we learned about the girl group challenge being the opening challenge here?
Yeah, I mean, same. Obviously, Georges we knew would be well equipped to handle this challenge with her performance skills. Roxy kind of the same thing. Roxy maybe has a little bit of a chance at redemption here going in with the her iconic verse from All Stars 2. So because it's not just the performance, they have to write their own verses and everything. But I think we expected her to do well going in. Angeria, I think she did well on that. Like it was like a '60s girl group challenge kind of thing. They showed like a little clip from it in her like walk into the workroom, but she did well on that, and she's just very charismatic. So I expected her to do well. Vanjie obviously could bring some charisma and just like comedy in her verse, and she can perform and twirl and do all the stuff. So yeah, high expectations for a lot of the queens here.
I think Angeria, Georges, and Vanjie were definitely the three I was most looking at here. To your point about Angeria and her girl group challenge, I think her lyric that "My baby, she's the one for me." That's the only lyric from that whole challenge that I remember. Honestly,
Yeah.
I was even rewatching it again, and I was like, I did not remember any of this. Like, I didn't even remember that like Bosco, and Daya and Willow did that like number about like the guy dying in a car crash. Like I didn't remember that at all. Like I only remember this one random line from Angeria. So to that point, I definitely agree with you there that I was looking at Angeria as well. And Vanjie, I think I've seen her perform live. I've seen her do Work the World here, so I was definitely like, yeah, I think when it comes down to just pure performance, while Georges is like an amazing dancer, I feel like Vanjie is like maybe the best choreographed performer out of everybody. If that makes more sense, because there's like I think what we really learned like last season. Is there's people that are just like great at dancing like Maya, and then there's like other people that are great at like choreography, and they're not necessarily, you're not necessarily good at both because you're a good dancer. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I was looking at for Vanjie too. So I think we were kind of, I think we're all on the same page as far as that goes there. Now, as far as like the other process here. And them like writing their lyrics and them performing here. Did anybody have any moments here that kind of stood out in their workroom activities as they prepared for the challenge?
Not really for me. Like there wasn't much in the workroom that I felt like I was like, okay, so this person's gonna do extremely well. It was more so when they were on the stage and like they were trying to do the choreo, like that rings in my mind more. But like in the workroom, I didn't really fear for a lot of them for their lyrics per se because I'm sure that they had some ideas cooking up because they already knew this challenge was gonna come at some point, which is really nice when you come to an all-star season. You kind of know what kind of challenges you're gonna get into.
Yeah,
Do you?
I mean, I feel like in the oh, sorry to cut you off. I
Oh
feel
no, no, no,
like
go for it.
in the workroom we mostly it was like the talk about the charities and kind of getting to know them a little bit more, but I think maybe to bring it into the next part a little bit, on the stage is where we kind of got obviously the people that were leading the challenge. It was like Vanjie and Georges, actually mostly Georges. And Georges was just like, okay, you do bop 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 bop, you do all this, and the queens behind her were like, what? So you have that moment, and so you kind of get to see where everybody's at, and you think, okay, maybe some people aren't going to be able to pick up the choreo as much, or maybe Georges isn't doing the best job directing everybody and making everybody understand it. So we kind of get some potential views on which way it can go once they're actually practicing.
I've learned to not take these. I feel like these intersections between like us preparing for them in the challenges to what actually happens in the challenge. I don't take them seriously anymore. So I just think it was hilarious that they let Georges like take control here, and I thought it was a chaotic mess. I thought for me the standout moment here was when Chanel almost died when she
Oh
almost
yes.
fell off
Oh,
the work stage. I thought that was hilarious. But Jack, do you have any thoughts here on the chaos mess here that it seemed like we were initially getting here from Georges and Chanel almost dying?
oh yes. So at first, my mind flicked back to episode 3 of season 1 of Drag Race, where Chanel does this infamous lip sync where her headpiece falls off, and is she gonna break or is she gonna continue singing? And she keeps going on and ends up winning the lip sync. And I was like, was this planned by Chanel to have another like oopsie moment? I'm not
Right.
sure that it was, but I was really like, this is kind of iconic that if it was, I would live. But like, even if it wasn't, I'm glad she's okay. Obviously, we don't want like the girl's safety to be in danger, but
I
it
mean, was
was
it planned
hilarious.
or is it just old age? Because
She's only
I'm
like,
like,
what
I
did
would
she say?
tumble over myself, and I'm like not even 40 yet.
I'm, I don't know, but like, I just thought it was funny that like, you know, Georges is over here like they think I went to like some ballet school or something. I don't know how to teach dance. Like, what do you mean? You should just feel it. And they want me to do like 5, 6, 7, 8. And everyone else over here is like, but aren't you like a choreographer? And she's like, girl, I go up there and do it to the music. Like I don't do this whole like routine. And everyone there is like, and Vanjie's like, okay, so Vanjie's a great intersection here because she knows how to do choreography like that, and she also knows how to do like practice choreo. You know, like Vanjie kind of does her own thing, but she also knows how to be in that dancer realm.
She can
So
improv.
right, I think she was really helpful there because I bet there was some stuff she was helping the other girls with that we didn't really get to see on screen because a lot of these girls are not dancers. I mean, Roxy isn't really a dancer, but she is a performer. Nina is definitely not a dancer. Plastique, not so much like the biggest dancer ever, but kind of a dancer, but not like dance a dancer. And Angeria, eh. Gottmik, no, definitely not. So like we had a lot of people that are like varying levels of dance experience. So I'm sure that that was really helpful, but probably frightening for some of the girls, especially when they first saw Georges just go bam, 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 bamity, bamity, bam.
I was definitely fearing for Chanel, and I was definitely fearing for Nina. Oh, this was all happening here. I think I was okay for everybody else here. I do think Roxy does have stage presence, but I also don't necessarily think maybe she's the most coordinated all the time. She could hold her own though, but yeah, for George's choreography, I was kind of actually looking to them just going just back, just going all crazy. So I was kind of hoping they were just gonna just keep up this whole rapid craziness, but we got what we got here. So, still some fun drama as we kind of work our way through the episode. Now, the next morning here, the real game kind of feels like it really kind of starts here. Is everyone is prepping for the first challenge, and everyone realizes that a blocking is on the horizon. It seems like we get our first maybe official alliance here between Angeria and Georges. What are our thoughts on the blocking process being a part of the season? And Whiskers, we'll start with you. What do you think is the best strategy? Because I know you are a threat at all these things. What do you think is the best strategy for the Ruby Snippers? And what do you think they should look for here when it comes to scissoring her sister?
Yes, I mean, first of all, I love that they're called the Ruby Snippers. That's it's just like a silly drag race thing that they love to do, and it's great. But I'm glad they have the blocking because I think it would be a really boring season if they didn't continue that as they had in All Star 7. So I'm glad we have the Ruby Snippers here, and I love that it adds some strategy. Um, I mean, I think it's tough with 8 people, or maybe it makes it easier with 8 people because you have to really always be thinking a step ahead. Um, Obviously, the people that have badges already, as we get later into the competition, it's important to make sure they don't just stockpile them. But you also have to think like, okay, we had a comedy challenge this time, so it'll probably be something to do with fashion, or you have to just predict and kind of get lucky in some spots. But I think later in the season, it kind of could get interesting in the strategy department, whereas somebody may be running away with it, and you almost wouldn't block them because it's like, okay, where they're going to be in the top 3 anyway. So maybe you want to take out the person that's in second or in third if you're in fourth or fifth, because then you have more of a chance of leaping over them and getting into the finale. So I think the strategy will kind of develop with the season, or there will just be none at all. But I think these girls are going to be kind of smart with the way they use the Ruby Snippers here.
Jack, do you have any thoughts on what it would mean to be like maybe someone who has a badge holder in the season, or maybe a multiple badge holder to keep yourself from being blocked? And what do you think maybe is the best strategy again overall for snipping?
So there is a time and a place for each reason to snip somebody, right? You can snip someone just because you don't want them to get a badge. You can snip someone because they're already ahead in badges. I think earlier in the game, it's better just kind of play a little neutral early on, and like after the first challenge, you have 2 people who are going to have badges. So you can snip one of them and be like, no hate, sister. It's just because you have badges. But later in the season, you might want to actually block the girl who has no badges, because if she can't get no badges, that's one person you've already beaten. Because the only real way to protect yourself when you have badges further in the season is by winning the challenges. And there's no way you can go on a challenge run where you win every single challenge. It's just not realistic. So you either have to make alliances, or you have to make it understandable that, like, even if you block me now, the next week I might have the opportunity to block you, and when I block you, then I win that challenge, and I still get a badge, you're out of badge. We could work together, and you could just let me get the most badges, but as long as you're in the next second or third place, you'll still have the opportunity to still be at the end with me. You got to kind of have to like manipulate if you want to use strategy, or you can just go the neutral route of, well, the girl had a badge, you haven't gotten the snip yet, so I feel it's best to do that. Now, I'm not one for neutrality, but to each their own game.
I mean, you make a good point there, about the fact that alliances seem like they might be very important this season, especially because I think we get two, again, relationships here that were very much so highlighted in this episode, at least, which again is that alliance that we kind of get between Angeria and Georges, where again in the very start of the episode, it seems like there is some talk about whether or not the newer queens are going to be able to hang out with, or stand up with some of the veterans in the cast. And it feels like Angeria and George just kind of bond together that way, being that they are the newest members in the same cast here that are together. So again, it feels like at some point Angeria and George just make an official agreement that they're not going to block each other, but they're going to look out for each other the best they can to some degree. The other relationship that I wasn't expecting here that we also learn here are the dolls, Roxy Andrews and Plastique, that they are basically I wouldn't say BFFs, but they're now close. They are a thing. They're a duo. As far as everything goes here, because they work together on the Vegas show, which at the same time, which I love that they are together. I love this pairing. Again, very unexpected. I didn't see them working together. Also, the fact that every season that Roxy is in now, she has some sort of alliance. So she has Relaxatox her first 2 seasons. Now she has the dolls here. So I'm kind of living for just the natural synergy we're kind of getting from this cast, that they kind of are starting to pair off here. Jack, do you have any thoughts here on these first two initial pairings that we see in kind of their likelihood of working together or dominating strategy here?
Yeah, I definitely see both of these as being very successful alliances down the line, specifically because when you look at it, there's a friendship, a bond that each of them have previous from the show, and not only that, but like, we've got the season 14 cast sisters together. It'd be really easy, and this is going to be shady, but like, how else am I supposed to say it? If I was Angeria, I don't think I'd have to end up using my scissors to cut Georges ever. Like, the only time that I'm gonna have to cut Georges is if there's, in my mind at least, like, I can't predict the future of how it's gonna go, but unless they're like favoritism, like constantly on Georges and putting her on the top, I don't really see a reason that I would really need to make sure that Georges is not getting a badge. And that's just my perception of the queens in the competition. So, like, I think that's really going to be easier for her to keep her deal, and probably easy for Georges because I don't. Georges is pretty loyal from what I've seen so far. As far as the dolls, and as someone who also went to the dollage, I would say that seems like a very successful pair with more likelihood of actually having to turn on each other. But if so, it would be understandable because I think Plastique and Roxy are both more uh, better, well suited, like well rounded competitors. And I think it's very highly anticipated that these two competitors could end up going to the top three, no problem. So I see this as a very mutually beneficial alliance, since if you have two people who you think are going to do well in the competition together, working never against each other, they can then dominate and still both make the finals.
So do you have any thoughts on this here too? Because it feels like the longer All Stars has been going on, the more okay and it seems like people are getting, or at least I would say the girls are getting with making alliances here. So do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing that these pairs are starting to emerge so quickly here at this time?
I think it's kind of a natural thing. I mean, you're put in this environment and you're in a competition. It's like directly related to your advancement, whether the person who won like picks you to get blocked or not. So I think it's kind of a natural thing that everybody's like, okay, well, I have to have some people on my side. And it seems like pretty across the board, everybody on the cast is like at this point actively like picked their person. So it'll be interesting to see how those develop. Like the two that we've been focusing on, Roxy and Plastique, like you said, is one that was unexpected for a lot of us, but I think one that can be very successful. And Jury and Georges, I mean, yeah, it totally makes sense, and it's good to have anybody in your corner because at the end of the day, anybody can win the challenge, and you never know who's going to be in that power position when you might have had a weaker week, and it might be something that you're good at the next week. So, you got to have people in your corner.
Hmm. I definitely agree. It is kind of giving me, for lack of better the terms here, basically because I've just been watching every single TV show that has been ever produced here this year so far. It feels like for my channel, it is giving me like Deal or No Deal Island vibes. I don't know if any of y'all watched that. I literally just did a deep dive on it, not trying to like product placement or anything here, just saying. But it is very much so like there's elimination format here where pretty much everybody is kind of vulnerable at any single time here. So there is just a kind of a gameplay here where it feels like you have to kind of be as good as you can with everybody at any single time. But even then, even if you're just successful at the game, like you could be as good as you want to with anybody at any point here. But if you're ever perceived as a threat, it also could work against you as well too. So I feel like this season, I love the fact that there's a little more strategy to it. The fact that they kind of have to play their cards as close to their chest as they can while still kind of collecting badges as much as they can. I almost kind of think the strategy to some degree might be to maybe tank the first like challenge or two, not on purpose, but just to kind of get an overall like thought on you that you're not like very good. Or unless you're someone coming in from, actually, I think Georges comes in probably maybe the best position because she can get badges, like Jack said, and she's not going to be perceived as a threat. So there is a lot of ways that you kind of play the game here. But I do think if you're kind of coming in already as a threat, there are a few ways you could maybe taint the look of you for a little bit, and then maybe like have a moment where, because like at least I think in All Star 7 we had a moment where they give stars out. Like I felt like at that point, like Evie and Jada were in the best spot to possibly win, just based on the fact that no one saw them as a threat based on the fact that they were given a star. So I kind of feel like that might be the best way to do it is to kind of start out, a little slow, and then come on a little bit stronger at the end. But it's also who knows if they might throw in like a twist where maybe if you get halfway through the season and you don't have a star, you're out. So, a lot of different ways we could play this season, and I'm very, very kind of excited for we're starting out for here. Because even though again, it's not a they eliminate each other format here. I do like the fact that there is some strategy to this in blocking each other with the stars here. It feels like almost a more equitable way to have this competition go here so they don't have so much blood on their hands for completely ruining someone's dream, but they have the chance to alter a small step and just put themselves one step ahead, and they're just kind of playing a game. So I think what we're kind of set up here for the strategic portion of the game, I'm very excited for. But you know what? Let's go ahead and get to the runway, because I think that is where everything kind of happens here for the episode. That's where all our action is. And I actually want to detour for a second because we have once again a star-studded first initial judge here, which is Keke Palmer. And I don't know about y'all. I want to talk about her for a second because I think she looks so good. I'm so excited. I don't feel like I follow her as much as I want to. Like I feel like she popped up in like Scream Queens, and then I don't hear from her for like 5, 10 years, and then she pops up here
Oh,
for Nope. Like I feel like I need to follow Keke Palmer more because I feel like she's just such a great presence. Like she seems so into it. She was like just yes, queen from the sidelines the whole time. She had such an energy about her. Did y'all enjoy Miss Keke Palmer as guest judge? Whiskers, I'll start with you here.
Oh, of course. I mean, Keke Palmer is somebody that I recognize like from like movies and shows I watched like growing up. So I was super excited to see her. I feel like I haven't been following her as much lately, but it's always amazing to see that like a person is there supporting like queer art that Megami wanted us to protect. um, but no, I love to see Keke Palmer there and her being so into it, like you said, like she was singing like the along to the song, like the drag queen save the world. She was singing along, and it's just the energy she brought. And even in Untucked, like she talked to everybody, and it seemed like they had to like rip her away. Like they were having such a good conversation. So it was really good to see her there. She's like one of the better judges we've had in a while, I think, just as far as a presence.
Jack, what are your thoughts on Miss Keke here?
Miss Keke Palmer, talented, like the absolute like just a legend, an icon. She is the moment kind of thing, like uh, sh- she she's done so much. She's done acting, singing, dancing, voice acting. Like there's nothing that she can't do. And she even says that, like RuPaul asks her, and she straight up says, "No, there's nothing I can't do." Like, and it's true. It's true. There's nothing she can't do. Like maybe recently she hasn't like been seen as much. I mean, I know hosts uh she hosts the game show Password. I only know that because I watched the GSN. Um, but like um I enjoy Keke Palmer a lot, and I was a huge Scream Queens fan. Like, I've watched it, I think 3 or 4 times now, all the way through. So, I loved this, and I loved how she vibed with the girls, and I loved her hair. By the way, can we talk about that for a second? I was watching with
Mhm.
someone, and they had the audacity to say they didn't like Keke Palmer's hair, and I asked them why, because I was like, okay, well, let me get into this bitch. She had the audacity to say that she thought it looked like someone who would like wear it in the 80s, kind of neo punk rock goth era. And I was like, oh, so you just don't like it when a black woman wears it. And I was like, oh, they were stunned. And I was like,
Mhm.
I'm just saying. Like,
I
her hair was
mean,
everything.
to be fair, I loved it at first, and then I hated it, and I loved it again, and now I not only love it, but I love it even more. And I think that's the sign of that it's good fashion. So I can't eat the hair. I love the look. I thought she looked so good, so pretty. I'm here for it. Honestly. I could kiki about Kiki, like, honestly, all day. But you know what? We have one thing else we have to get to, other than before we get to the challenge here, because I completely forgot that we got a performance here from Mama Ru. What were your thoughts
Uh,
here on Mother's performance tonight? And do we love these random dance breaks from Ru? Do they give you life here? Jack, you can start.
they give me time in my life to go up, take a break, get another snack, go to the bathroom, whatever I need to do. Bless Mother Rue for that. Like, no hate, no, like, she's what, 70? No, like 60 something? Like, I'm not expecting her to do the whole world, but I was like, look, most of the gays are looking at the background dancers anyways. And I know that people were, like, even Keke was like, you did that. And I was like, she sure did do something. I'm not sure what that was, but I'm sure she did something up there. I will say at least the outfit wasn't terrible. The performance she did, I think she did a little bit more activity than she has done in a lot of her past performances. So I
Mhm.
guess good for her. But no, I'm not a fan of these dance breaks. Other than to get up, stretch my legs, get a drink, something.
What was your thoughts on these? On
Yeah,
Miss
I mean,
Ru?
I'm obviously I don't have as many thoughts, but kind of the same thing where it's just a moment. I mean, it's kind of a champion moment for Rue. Like, I mean, she's built this empire, and yeah, if she wants to dance around and make us all watch her dance to her 5,000 songs, that's fine. Like, she can do that. She's earned that. So I'm fine with it. I will say I loved her like the limousine one for the finale of season 16. That was fun.
Mhm.
I enjoyed that. Maybe because that wasn't as much of just like the she's standing on stage with shirtless men dancing, which is
She
what
was
it seems
standing
like
behind a
it is for
screen.
most of them, with shirtless men dancing. But but it was, yeah. I mean, this performance wasn't particularly sparkling for me, but she could do whatever she wants, and we'll still watch.
Yeah, can I be honest? I do think I appreciated the fact that she tried a little bit more. I think that maybe her heels were too high. I feel like maybe that's it. Like, she needs to like take a lesson out of Saphira's in book here, and like those dancing biscuits she was making fun of her for. Like, maybe she needs to get a pair of those. Like,
The
but
character
she was
shoes.
trying. No, she was trying. So, I think you're right. If she wants to dance in front of us, I will gladly just sit here and take it for however long we need to, because you know what? We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Mother. So, you know what? I'll deal with it. It's fine. Um, although it does feel like this song, I don't know if I've heard it before. Maybe I've kind of heard it in passing, but it sounded like another one of her songs that she'd already done here, and I thought she was playing that song, and it was this song, and I don't know. That was my only like weirdness about whatever that song was she recorded, but I'll be honest. I don't really listen to Ryu's music on the regular, so uh, she does have some bops.
It had a moment. Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
You
what was
know,
it? Glamazon.
yeah,
Um,
Amazon was good.
there were some
Sissy
good
That
ones.
Walk. I
Yes.
personally
Yep.
really liked the beginning. I thought the beginning was really good.
Are we
Hmm.
not going to mention ASMR Queen and Adrenaline
I
though? Like,
mean, I mean, Adrenaline, I get, but we were kind of starting in the beginning, working our way up here. ASMR Lover is probably like the
The
last song she's released
classics.
that like
Yeah.
oh,
I've
should we
listened to.
talk about
Yeah.
the messily named ones that are a little bit transphobic?
I mean, let's we
Let's let
Are
those
they
fade into
really
obscurity.
well, I don't necessarily want to like bring this topic up here, but I know like we like to get a little deep here. But I feel like to some degree, are those songs really transphobic, or is it just kind of like that's just how the vernacular was at the time, and that's what the song was made of? Like I kind of feel of two groups here because I do know Mama Ru's past, so I'm not going to forgive her of that. But I mean, like a lot of these things that Drag Race brings up here, especially like in recent history. Like I could go back as far or like to most recently the first time like I remember actually being like, whoa, I didn't actually know that. Like Canada versus the World 2, where Victoria was like, yeah, fish is offensive, and I was like, oh, I thought it was like the thing, but no, like don't use that term. So it's like there's certain things that like I feel like there's signs of the times that don't necessarily mean like just because you make a racist joke in some ways doesn't mean you're racist. You might have bad taste when you want to say it, but
Come
um,
on.
that's just my thoughts on it. So Jack, if you want to elaborate a little deeper, you're more than welcome to. 'Cause I know
No,
you have
I
words.
mine was just a little joke because I know we all know that one that we're like, ooh, when people start talking about RuPaul's music, there's always that little like, let's not talk about it moment.
I mean, true. Again, I'm not defending her. We all have our decisions. Um, but is I think she's trying the best she can. She's doing the best she can, just like this performance. Rue is doing the best she can. So as long as she doesn't start fracking again, I'm generally okay with Rue. I'm generally okay.
I'm putting the axe on my mouth right now. Mm?
Oh my god, one of the best moments out of Drag Race. I mean, it's not Drag Race, but like on the internet, off Drag Race, Bob and Peppermint. Oh, the Fracken.
Oh my lord. Oh, that's for another podcast. We've gone way off
Yeah.
tangent here. So y'all, I'm glad to hear y'all love Mother Rue here and her performing, and I can't wait till she does another one next episode. But
No,
um,
please.
Every episode.
imagine, oh, oh my God, no. Anyway, I think it's officially time to talk about what we came here for. The challenge, which was actually a lot better than I was expecting. I feel like a lot of the group performances, sometimes I'm a little kind of like I could pay attention, I kind of not. Like definitely remember All Stars 8s. I did not pay attention whatsoever. But this one I felt like it was very engaging. I felt like there were a few standouts. Maybe I want y'all to speak here first though on your thoughts. We'll start out with you. What were your kind of overall thoughts on who you thought did well in the challenge, who you thought maybe probably wasn't going to get a star? Just to talk about it all.
Sure. I mean, I thought overall the song was good. I don't think there was anybody that was like a real stinker and did bad, but there were definitely some standouts. And now we've watched it a couple of times. There's some things on like the second watch through that I picked up that I was like, oh, I liked that, or oh, I didn't like that as much. But one of the things that I picked up watching it a second time was Roxy's verse. Like just hearing it all the way through again, I really appreciated a lot more, and just like the thing she did at the end was really good. And there were some surprises for me as well, because obviously we talked about it in the last episode, where who we thought was going to do well. With like Georgia's having the dancing background, and maybe some others as well. But some that I didn't expect, where I thought Gottmik did pretty well. I liked kind of the dance moves, like the powerful, like the punching. I thought that was kind of cool. Nina with the singing was kind of interesting. It wasn't one of my favorites, but she stood out for that. Roxy's, like I mentioned, obviously. Plastique I thought was amazing. Like when the first watch through, I thought Plastique was amazing. Just when she when you pan over to her and she's whipping the ponytail around, it was like, okay, this is gonna be good. Angeria did well, obviously. Georges did well, obviously. Um, I liked Vanjie's a lot. I'm just gonna call out everybody, but I thought it was pretty solid all around. There were like maybe for who I knew wasn't gonna win, Chanel. Just with I don't know that maybe it was more the delivery of her verse. But I thought she did a good job. Nobody did bad for me, but a lot of people kind of stood out for different reasons.
I think I agree with you with Chanel there that I think hers was the only verse. No shade to Chanel here. I think this is more on like the reduction of it. I didn't like the sound of how they made her sound. So she sounded
Yes,
very,
no, I
very much
agree.
so like a very obvious auto tune, and it's like it's not a bad thing. I mean, we've heard. I mean, Banji obviously is probably audio tuned, but you know, I don't. I felt like it didn't stand out as much as it did in Chanel's track too. It definitely took me out. One thing about Chanel, I'm not sure if you caught it, but it definitely made me chuckle, especially on the second time through. But you know how they open the stage here? So there, it kind of looks like the way they have it staged is they have like the smaller queens. It's like an order of size on both sides, other than Gottmik, who's in the back because she starts first and she's gonna pop out as Keke loves to have happen here. But do you notice on the right, like the left hand side, it's like, God, like I forget, it's Plastique, and then it's like the next biggest person. On the other side, we have Chanel at the front, and then it's Georges behind. And I'm just like, it gave me all of the like tease back to All Stars 1, where Chanel was just fighting over just trying to be at the front of the stage all the time. And I'm just like, did you really need to be like block Georges like that? Like, you could just stand up behind Georges and you will still be completely visible, Chanel. Like, I thought that was hilarious. Not sure if any of y'all clocked that, but that made me laugh. Um, Jack, what were your thoughts here on the challenge here?
So I had a couple. I have thoughts on everyone actually. You know what? So as
Get
you
into it.
mentioned,
Tell us.
Chanel,
Spill that tea.
yeah, Chanel literally like her performance wasn't terrible. The lyrics were awful though. I mean, the lyrics were just bad, and we were like, "What is going on here, Chanel?" The performance not terrible, but she looked good to doing it, but it was bad. And then Miss Nina, she gave it her all, and I appreciate. You could see the energy and how she was trying to hit them choreography numbers the way she could, but you could see in her mind she was thinking about every single step. But like, good for her because she got them. She did get them. Her verse wasn't very good though, in my opinion. Again, my opinion. I wasn't a huge fan of comics, but I don't think she did bad at it whatsoever. I just think other girls outshined her. um, like Angeria and Vanjie both did a pretty good job, but they were very middle of the pack for me. Whereas, like, when I saw the girls command the stage, I was like, all right, Miss Plastic got lifted up in the air doing the hair flipping. Like, this girl was the standout performer of the night. She owned the whole challenge, she owned the whole stage. Her lyrics were possibly the best out of everyone's. Like, Plastique did not come to play, she came to slay on this challenge. Roxy, though not the greatest at choreography, you could not like smile when you saw Roxy. Her stage presence was immaculate. She was there in the moment. She had one of the best verses, if not the best verse. It's for me, it was really between her and Plastique. And then Georges lit up that stage. You know, it was so funny seeing all the girls run around Georges, and here she is, like a foot smaller than at least all of them, basically. And when she's next to Nina, I have to laugh because it looks like Jack and the Beanstalk almost. You know, the huge giant towering over her. I'm like, oh my god, like she's about to get killed or something. Like, it's just so funny. When she popped out for her voice, I was like, oh my god! Like I sometimes don't recognize how much of a height difference there is, and it's really to me it's really like kind of funny. But she did a great job. She looked good. I expected her to do well in this, and she proved that she was a great competitor for her performance, and her lyrics weren't too bad. They were nowhere near as good as Plastic and Roxy's to me, but I enjoyed her performance. Those were easily my top three for this performance.
Mhm. I definitely agree with you. I kind of want to split up my initial thoughts on the performance portion of it into my first watch and my second watch. Just because I think, like Whisker said, like there's definitely things that I caught my second time watching through that I did not watch or catch my first time. And I think sometimes you need to watch these, especially these performance challenges, a second time, just so you kind of get a full scale of what's happening here. Because sometimes, especially for me, I watch the queens that I'm rooting for. I don't necessarily watch every single queen, I think, equally, especially if I don't like feel their presence or anything coming off here. And I will say, in my first watch, I completely lost Georges. To what you said, Jack, she's just so tiny compared to everybody here. Like in any sort of background shot, because she doesn't go until like the very end. Like I completely honestly forgot she was there. I will be entirely honest. Like I did not remember she was there. And also because I think that when Plastique came out and she had the dancers, one, I don't remember them ever saying they were getting dancers. I don't know if anybody remembers them saying that. I also don't remember in my head, even watching it for a second time here, I don't remember even remembering the dancers being there until they came out holding Plastique. So
Yeah.
that either speaks to the fact that I have a bad memory, which is partially probably what it is. But also the fact that I feel like the fact that Plastique made this entrance and made them known here, I think that was very smart on her end for a lot of ways. So Plastique to me came off as the star, especially my first watch here. I think Vanjie probably came off as my second or third. I lost her lyrics entirely. I probably tuned them out both times. But performance wise, she gave me probably one of the stronger performances here. I also thought Angeria did really well in most of the aspects. I think she really benefited from that entrance to how her verse starts, to really kind of take the scene with that close up and just kind of run with it. So I think that was very well played with Angeria. Nina maybe sounded the best out of everybody. Although I think you're right, Jack. I didn't agree, or I didn't like her verse as much. Um, but I will say on my second watch back through, definitely noticed Roxy's stage presence a lot more. I definitely kind of lost her the first time, and she kind of felt like she was giving like a cue, like I'm just gonna walk around performance, initially. But I did get a lot more Roxy the second time through. I think where the bad thing for Roxy is, and I also would kind of throw Nina in here too, because I think they perform to the best of their ability, but we have to again grade them on a curve with the rest of the girls, and their choreography is never going to stand out in a group performance when we have people like Plastique and Georges and Angeria and all these other people that are splits and kicks and bucks and whatnot, death drops of the wazoo, whatever. So I think they did well, but I don't think they're ever going to stand out in one of these types of challenges in a group setting. So the biggest surprise for me on the rewatch through back a second time was how well I thought Georges actually did. I didn't really, again, I didn't pay attention to her the first time, honestly, because again, I think I'll be honest, I wrote Georges off as having anything to do well in the competition. I think we kind of established that out of everybody here, I think she's probably the weakest. I think we all kind of agree with that there. So I do think when I forced myself to watch her and I really realized she was actually doing stuff in the background and really putting in a lot of effort, even in things that weren't her verse. And then her verse itself was actually probably one of the strongest. She had probably some of my favorite lines out of everybody. So I do kind of agree that Georges is probably the most comfortable on stage, and I will eat my words here because she's definitely probably the most captivating performer out of this entire cast here. So um, as far as everything goes here on the challenge here, I kind of agree with the general overall sentiment from the judges here. But before we get into revealing who won the challenge, we still have one thing else to get into here too, and that is the runway, which is signature fragrance, signature drag. And in this particular runway, the queens will create a signature drag look with a fragrance inspired by it. Now, I want to hear some of y'all's standouts from the runway. Jack, we'll start with you first.
Oh goodness. Okay, so from the runway, actually my biggest standout has to be the same one in the challenge is Plastique. The double set of wings, I don't think we were expecting that. And
No.
she looked magnificent. The perfume was correct. Like the bottle matching her outfit perfectly, the ink on both her name and the perfume. I was like, it was branded well. You know, she was angelic. She was pretty. Like you wanted to be that girl. Like everyone can tell you, oh, I don't want to be a standout or blah blah blah. But if you watch the show, girl, you wanted to be Plastique in that moment. You were like, yes, I am that pretty bitch coming down the stage looking gorgeous. You cannot clock a damn thing. Once again, Roxy Andrews once said, you can't read the doll. And as a Dollage alum like she is, it was clear we could not read her. Another runway look that I was living for actually was Chanel. I thought Chanel like did so well on the runway in a way that I guess I mean I was always expecting her to look polished because Chanel's known for, you know, constantly like upping her game and making herself look good. But I guess I wasn't expecting her to stand out so well, in my opinion. I found her like red, like sequenced gown and the shoulder flares up and the sequence underneath the shoulder, underneath the hip peplum out, and like the nice cleavage. Like it was the whole thing was just it looked amazing. And of course, she called her perfume Chanel #1, but spelled her way with SH. It was great branding. I mean, what can we say? I also have a couple standouts that weren't so great, such as Vanjie. I thought the look was so meh, and I didn't really understand the brand because I don't think toxic when I think of Vanjie. So I was like, that's an interesting way of doing it. Not for me. Georges's look was very kind of hit and miss for me because I just was like, it's more red, and here it is, you revealing another like bodysuit that didn't even look that good. I actually thought the reveal was worse than the thing she had on before. Um, and I know that there's gonna be some reading about my girl Miss Roxy Andrews here, but Miss Roxy Andrews, though the fabrics of the dress weren't working, the cut of the dress and everything could have worked had the fabrics been different. And I think it had something to do like with her presentation of the perfume. I thought her perfume ad was like the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life. Like the fact that she brings up her past of All Stars 2. You know, they won't send you home, no matter if you're up against Alyssa Edwards or Tatiana, who both been kicked out of the competition already. And both times you could be sent home instead of them. Both times you don't get sent home again. And what was the greatest part about it was when she said it retails for one rhinestone t-shirt, which is the infamous reason that Alaska says she doesn't send to home Roxy because she let her use her rhinestone t-shirt for the performance. Like, oh my god, it was brand genius right there for me. I was loving that. I get that her outfit wasn't the greatest, but it was a standout for that reason, like alone. I liked Angeria's look, but it was a little loved the idea of the bottle, but it looked ugly. Glad it matched the dress though. The dress was nice, but I've seen this dress before and it's seen it better on the runway. Nina's concept was great. I loved the criminal aspect of it. I just wish the skirt had, you know, moved better on her. And finally, Gottmik, that chain did so much heavy lifting because I am sorry, girls, but that outfit was not it. I don't care what anyone says. Like that outfit was, it just wasn't giving very much. I was like, oh my god, that chain is holding that thing together. Because without it, we'd all just say this is a bad black dress. That's my view. Those are my views. I know I had a lot to say, but you know what? There's 8 of them. Let me get to everyone.
Might as well touch on everybody at that point. If you're gonna read one, might as well read everybody at that point.
Right.
I feel it. What are your thoughts? If you want to read everybody, feel for it. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll definitely go over some standouts for both positive and negative, but obviously we'll start with positive. And it's everybody could have guessed this, but Plastique. I mean, nobody was competing with the huge golden angel wings. I especially liked the second pair of wings that were like kind of clasping the perfume and let go. I thought it was just really cool to see. And we've seen the wings before on the runway, but I feel like every time we've seen them, they've at least been a little bit different. And this one, obviously, the double wings, and then it was with the perfume. I don't know. It was repetitive, but not in like any negative way. Like it was completely standalone and spectacular. And Plastique obviously looked fantastic here. As far as other ones that stood out, I liked Angeria's a lot. The color scheme. Jack did say it's a silhouette we've seen before, but I mean it's kind of it works with Angeria's brand, and that's one of the only names that I remember. It was like I believe it was called Southern Belle, her perfume, and it's kind of shaped in that bell shape, and the dress is kind of similarly shaped. And I love the pastel blue and purple together. I think it's just fun and cute. So I liked Angie's look a lot as well. Nina, I thought it was smart that she also kind of played with the shape a little bit more literally than Angeria did. Nina literally was the same as her bottle, but I kind of gave her extra points for that just because I'm pretty sure she would have figured that everybody else is going to be doing like some sort of fashion thing, so she just went kind of more the comical route. But I think it worked in her favor here because especially we've talked about Nina, like her looks aren't going to be the highlight. So I think she played to her strengths with this as best as she could. As far as low lights, Elsa, I mean Roxy, looked not the best, but Jack kind of brought me around to her a little bit with explaining the branding. And kind of like the jokes about the sequin top. I mean, that's an iconic moment. So I kind of give her more points for that. But the look was, I don't know where she was really going with this look. The makeup always looks good because it's Roxy, but this dress is Elsa Party City. I don't know. Like it was not my favorite. I like the color, period. That's it. Um, Chanel's I thought was fine. I thought it was a very safe kind of look. I liked the name of her perfume, Chanel. Obviously, you got to go with that, but it was still kind of funny. Yeah, Gottmik's the look wasn't the best. I think Gottmik shown more in the performance, which I think was more of a surprise for me. But the look wasn't anything too great. Georges, I didn't mind the look. It was fine, kind of safe. And Vanjie's, some aspects I liked, some aspects I did not like. I really liked the hair. I thought that was fun. We haven't really seen anything like it before, kind of like with the bleached blonde and black kind of waved throughout. Branding perspective, yeah, Toxic doesn't really go, but I don't hate the dress. I kind of like that it's something really different. But I also don't love it. I can't say I love it either. But so yeah, I think I slightly touched on everybody there, but those were my highs and lows.
Mhm. So just to reiterate here, Jack, you had Gottmik last, right? Who did you have after
Oh,
that? Did you have Vanjie
oh
last
no,
or Gottmik?
I didn't have Gottmik last. Gottmik was sixth. That's the surprising part.
Oh, who's last?
Vanjie.
Okay, okay. Well, I would agree too as well, I think. I think Vanjie would be overall my least favorite look this round. I again don't get the reference. I don't apply Toxica to Vanjie. I love the Britney Spears reference, obviously, but and I do like the wig with it, kind of, sort of, how it looks on her to
Mhm.
some degree. I like the mask. Um, I like the shape of the dress. I like the idea of the dress. I don't know if I really like the color or the color patterns. I don't know. It's just I don't equate any of this to her. And if we're going with branding, because this is signature look, right? Like this is not signature Vanjie to me. Um, so I do agree with y'all. She'd be last. Um, I also agree. I was underwhelmed by Gottmik. I expected a lot more from her, and you're right. The chain is probably the only good thing about it. I that's a lie. I like the neck collar piece and how it ties to the chain as well too. But it feels like maybe that should have been gold too. I don't know. There's as much as I said earlier, I like her simplicity. I also feel like this look maybe might not be as cohesive as other ones here, so I definitely would throw her down here. Georges, I would probably put next. I it's fine. I don't hate it. I think what sold it for me though was her voiceover. I thought it was pretty hilarious that she kept bringing up, VCR cleaner and marijuana. So if that's gonna be her brand, okay, cool. I'm here for it. It was funny, so I at least remember that part of it versus like the other two. So I put her next. I have Roxy next tier two. Like I don't like this dress. I don't like the dress. I don't like the dress. It reminds me of, and I don't know why, but whenever I think of like, I don't know a better term for it. other than to say the word like crafty. But I kind of think back of like looks that like look expensive, but they're also like, wow, that couldn't like really did that really cost that much money? Like Shea Coulee's butterfly look kind of thing. I'm like that looks crafty, you know. So like I don't I hate to use that word, but that's kind of what I get from Roxy's look here. Like it's just the material is not good. I love though her makeup. The wig is great. Her voiceover was amazing, and the idea behind it, like Jack and Whiskers, like you both already touched on. I think she sold it the best for me out of everybody. But yeah, other like neck down, don't like the look at all. But neck up, I think it's honestly the prettiest that she has ever looked. So I go back and forth on this one. I think that's why it's in the middle. Same thing with Angeria's. Like there's just something about it that I get what she's going for. I don't really like it, like, as much as I want to like it. But again, she sold it for me in the voiceover. I also like the hat. I think the hat's cute. And I like her bottle. Like she did a very unique bottle shape, I think, to some degree versus other girls, and I think it was very smart. And while it's kind of predictable to some degree to just do like a dress, like a woman's body shape as it, like she was kind of really, other than like maybe Chanel, I think the only one that kind of go that route with it. So that's why I liked hers. And speaking of Chanel, I had her up next. I initially I thought I liked the look. I thought it was clean. I thought it was a little basic, but the more I look at it, the more I've had time to kind of like sit with it. The more I really enjoy just the color patterns, the fact that like the solid red on top and the patterning of the red with the look on the bottom there, and the bottle. It just looks really good. It looks really good overall. So I can't clock Chanel on this one. She looks stunning here. Um, Surprisingly, I have Nina as second. I don't know if Jack had Nina super high, but Whiskers, it sounds like you might have had her at
I
least
had
a
her
little higher.
third. Yeah.
Not
I
okay.
had
Um,
her fourth, so
I have her second. I don't know. I the fact that she goes, and I think this is something that Cody was speaking to in the last kind of podcast here, that she goes in a very different direction in her drag, and you could really see this here to the level of her thought into this look here, just based on the fact that she's like everybody else is going to pattern their bottle probably after something fashion, like I think Jackie might have said that. Let me do something else. Let me do the exact opposite. Let me make my dress the bottle. And I thought that was hilarious. The concept is relevant. It's ties back into her challenge earlier, to the lyrics that she had earlier. So I really enjoyed this look from Nina, which surprised me. But like I said, every once in a while she pulls. I think when she pulls out looks that maybe um, anybody else would wear it. This is gonna sound terrible. Anybody else wear it, maybe you might be like, oh, okay, that's like an A minus, a B. I don't know why. On Nina, I'm like A plus. I love it. So, I love this look by Nina. And then obviously the best look of the week for sure, without a doubt, has to be Plastique's. Like, is there any question in it? Like, sure, she has the diaper, but for the wings alone, like the fact that those wings just like tuck her and hold her like a jacket, like just what kind of budget is that? Like, look at like let's go back to like I say, Shea Coulee and her wings. I love Shay. Look at the wings. Look at Courtney Act's wings. Still to this day, like the width on those were amazing. But like, oh my god, like plastic must have literally flown in a suitcase for each wing. Like that, it's just beautiful. So I think we're kind of all in agreement with at least the top and the bottom here when it comes to the looks. So um, this is just a taste for some of the looks that we're going to get this season. I'm very excited here uh, for the fashion. But um, we'll go ahead and we'll get on with the episode though, because there was a brief moment here where I don't know if anybody else watched it, but we did have Untucked. I generally, when I kind of watch, sometimes, at least back in the day, I would pause the episode right after the judging and then go watch Untucked, so it could be like real time. I don't have the effort to do that anymore here, but we'll do it in the podcast for sake here, because we'll go back to Untucked, and it still feels like we're gonna get a lot of love Untucked. Feels like we're probably not gonna, get a season 2 of Untucked, unfortunately, or season 3. Um, let's go ahead and actually talk about that for a moment, because Wishers, I want to know what your thoughts are on even the relevance of Untucked anymore. Do you believe that we really need to see Untucked to see the other side of the story, or the other half, I should say?
Well, if you're not watching Untucked, you're only getting half the story. I think that still holds true. I think it's kind of fun to see, like, as a viewer, you kind of want to see like what's happening behind the scenes, and it's kind of a way where you get a quote unquote, because it's not an actual, but like peek into production and just like how everything works and how the queens are actually feeling, like not in the bright lights of the stage. So in theory, it's good. I think it's been much better in the past. um I don't know, they almost like need to do something to kind of revitalize a little bit. I feel like they've just tried to move it around to a bunch of different settings and think that that will change it. um which the setting definitely matters, because I mean those original seasons where they had like the gold room and the silver room, and like people would always be talking shit about each other, and like somebody would just be walking into the other room, like that just provided so many good moments. But now that it's like they kind of just all sit together in a big area and have their little like canned cocktail, I don't know, it's a little stale, but I still think it's fun to have.
Jack, do you have any thoughts on the status of Untucked as it currently is in its current format?
I think with a season like this, where if we're not going to have any drama, they might as well have edited Untucked into the episode like they do with some of the other seasons. Like I know with like Canada's, for example, you don't watch Canada's Untucked; it's just in the show. And like I think with a especially with like a season like this where no one's going to really get too shady with each other, or it's gonna be like a light gag joke here or there kind of thing. The first episode of Untucked is almost always pretty tame for some reason. Like the girls are still getting to know each other, they're nice, but I feel like in a charity season, you're not going to have a lot of drama or shade. So like, is it really necessary? Not completely. Like, I still watch it 100%, but do I think it's the most necessary thing? Definitely not. In other seasons, it does better, especially in other All Star seasons, especially with the format of like having to choose someone to go home, that causes drama immediately. And I'm not saying they need to egg on the drama all the time, but they could ask the girls to like talk about what they think about their placements. But since no one's going home, no one's lip syncing for their life, there's not a lot you can do here other than talk about maybe like who you think is going to get the cut, the snips.
hmm Well, I mean, I didn't mind this Untucked episode because it really gave all the queens really a chance to get really deep into why they're supporting the charities that they're supporting here, and we got a lot of background on those. So people who haven't like read or listened to a lot of like the preseason press and haven't don't follow that portion of it really as much. I thought it was really good that they included that at least in the show, at least to be semi-relevant and Untucked. I do kind of agree though with what you're saying though, Jack. I do think it's probably this, especially with this season, they probably could have just stuck it in with the runtime and just made it like a little bit longer of an episode here. Especially because like how like it's not like these shows are ever gonna show up on like a syndicated TV anymore. Like that's just not how TV works anymore. So I don't get why there is necessarily a reason that we have to adhere to traditional like runtimes on an episode to make it like formatted like to the point where it needs to have like 90 minutes or whatever or whatever with commercials to fit a 90-minute episode. Like that's just kind of dumb to me as far as like a standard for TV just in general. Um, but as far as everything goes here, I did again enjoy this Untucked here. And one uh, point, I wouldn't say point of drama, but a point that I kind of found funny that I do kind of want to talk about here, because it's something I did notice on other All Star seasons, and I think it's something they have a luxury of doing compared to the normal seasons, and that is when people change in Untucked, Untucked for the lip sync. like Roxy clocked all the girls changing, like people like Nina or Vanjie, who I didn't even think that they had a chance to win, but they're still changing. Do you think that it matters here when it comes to these All Star seasons, as far as that they have to change for a lip sync? Do you think it's better that they just stay in their initial costumes, or do you like the fact that they could switch things up? Whiskers, you started us off with your opinion here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, changing has become like it happened at some point in these All-Star seasons, and that's just become like the meta. Like, okay, if you're gonna lip sync, you change and you bring another outfit, which I can only imagine for their suitcases how much more that adds. Because not only do they need outfits for every challenge and every runway, now they have to bring like backups so they could lip sync in it. But I mean, if I was in that position and you have the outfit at your disposal and you're in there, it's kind of like in Survivor, like if you have the immunity idol in your pocket and like there's any chance you might go home, if there's any chance you might lip sync, you might as well be prepared. So I kind of get why people change, but like also if you feel confident in the outfit that you're in and you know you could perform and do what's asked of you in the outfit that you wore on the runway, I think that's almost even better than changing into like a leotard that you can move around in better.
Jack, do you have any opinions on the subject here?
Yeah, I think so. I think like I think Roxy was right. Like, it's kind of funny to see people change for a runway when you know that there's no chance in hell. Like, what was Xena doing changing? Like, be so serious. Be so serious. Like, I love that the girls brought their runways. And Nina even said it herself. You're gonna see me change into this every single time until I have to lip sync, and then you'll see what's under it. And I was like, well, all right, girl, like, you can do that if you want. It's not gonna matter. Like, I mean, it's not to be mean, but like, you're not gonna like be the winner on the dancing challenge where your outfit also wasn't the best on the runway. Like, I mean, like, I honestly thought that Roxy had a better chance of lip syncing for the win than Nina did. So I was like, Nina, you might want to just sit this one out. I was like, I guess, Angie, because you got some pretty good critique, even though like there was no chance in hell in my mind that you could do it because your runway was just like, if we're gonna include the runway here, like Vanjie's runway bad. Her performance was good, but not like good enough to make up for everything. And I kind of felt like only like 3 or 4 people maybe should have changed. Like, you should kind of know. Like, Chanel knew she wasn't gonna lip sync. Like, so be real. Like, you need wasn't gonna lip sync, so don't be ready to lip sync when you know you're not gonna lip sync. But I mean, be prepared if there's an actual chance. But there was no chance for a lot of these girls. That's just the truth behind it all. Like, I don't know how much space these extra lip sync outfits take up, but a lot of their lip sync outfits generally aren't too big. Now then, there are the girls um with the like huge coats and stuff and the reveal, so it can take up some space. But I mean, when I'm looking at the coats and stuff, I was talking about Vanjie, and I saw what she wore most of the time, so I don't think she has a problem since most of those are pretty small dresses um that just fold up and they take up no space.
Mhm, mhm.
And you get
You
what, at
you
70?
underestimate the power of like the Euro sealer and vacuum packing your stuff.
Right,
You
right.
probably vacuum pack stuff like really, really small. Plus Vanjie's tiny anyway, so um yeah, I mean I kind of agree. I kind of have two mindsets here because I think I'm just such a fan of traditional drag race where it's like you kind of have what you have. And I feel like I'm always a little more impressed when it's like, okay, I brought this outfit and then all of a sudden like there's a reveal in it versus like let me be like let me just have a whole nother outfit that I can do a reveal from too. Like so obviously there's benefits here. Like we wouldn't have had like the Shangela iconic lip sync where she does it, in the big girl suit. There's a bunch of other situations here. Well, I mean, on the same side here, we also wouldn't have like the Trinity doing the old person lip sync either
Ooh,
too. So it goes both
yeah.
ways. It does kind of give me to some degree, like how we always kind of expect, the lip sync for the crowning to always have some sort of stupid reveal. Like I feel like that's kind of what it's kind of come down to now, especially in All Stars when they get to change. Like you said with Nina, just like, now she's just gonna go around with, look, I have a reveal under my outfit. It's just like I mean, I get it, but also like is this the standard? Does this have to be the standard? So I kind of get it. I kind of enjoy it, but I'm also kind of I don't know. I also kind of think it's slightly unfair, and I kind of will always again respect someone who's able to kind of go like maybe a Roxy route, and then maybe she just has like some crazy ass reveal underneath it where she reveals to a good dress, and she was just waiting for the the lip sync for it to happen. But that was just a small point I kind of wanted to touch on here that they kind of brought up in the time. I thought was funny. So instead, you know what? Let's just get back to the main stage and announce our winners because it is declared that our top two for the week are Angeria Van Michaels and Georges. Do we agree?
No, what
Mm-mm,
was
but-
that? Like,
Yeah, no.
you're gonna lie. You can lie to the world, girl, but you won't lie to me. Like I saw what we saw, and I know only we got part of it, but I saw what I saw, and the girls saw what they saw.
Jack, who's your top two then? Who would be the fair top two as far as you're concerned?
Plastique and probably I mean, Plastique is guaranteed in the top two. If you pick anyone from, if you go mostly off the challenge, because I think the challenge is more important than the runway, I'm gonna give it to either Georges or Roxy, and I can make an okay like Angeria getting there. I don't mind either. I think she did well enough in there that I expect her there. But I think Georges beats Angeria, so I think that like in any world it probably should have been Plastique and Georges if we're gonna because I mean, the runway. I get that Roxy and Georges both didn't do like the greatest on the runway, but Georges is still in the top. But how is Plastique not getting the top this week? That's riggery, baby. That's because they're just trying to give people badges so they can even it out later. I think, like 100%. You can't tell me anything else. Like no one could tell me anything else. I'll put that on my gravestone if you want. Like
Oh no. So Jack says Rug. It's totally Rugery here. Okay. Does it scream Rugery to you, Tyrion? Or it's Rugery, as we're gonna call it here today?
I mean, yeah, I like Angeria and Georges are in the top three for me here, but yeah, Plastique is number one. I think clearly the look was great, the performance was great. Georges, the performance was great, the look was fine. Angeria, the performance was, I'd say, good, better than fine, and I thought the look was good. You guys didn't think the look was as great, but I thought those were like the clear top three. But I thought Plastique was like a shoe in to be there, and then when she wasn't, it was definitely a little surprising.
I agree. I definitely expected Plastique to be there. They could have made a case for either Angeria or Georges at this point, but I'm not sure how they make a case for both of them at this point. Because I definitely agree. I think Plastique was the standout without a doubt this episode, and very surprised that she didn't get her flowers here. It's kind of unfortunate. I can't say I'm shocked by it because well actually I'm slightly shocked by it because I mean there was that whole scandal in All Stars or sorry season 11, not All Stars 11, but we're about to be at All Stars 11, dear lord. um that's scandal back in her original season where Raja called out production that they were favoring Plastique, and then they had to eliminate Plastique basically a few episodes later to cover their asses. So it's kind of funny that they're just like, let's just not give her her obvious win here, which is just like, wow. But I also kind of see a case why they would give Georges the win here because they probably don't have, many other opportunities where they're going to be able to give Georges a win. So I see give her where it's deserved here because Georges was great. And Angeria, I mean, my only case for Angeria winning is that I kind of had a feeling that she's going to be someone that they want us to see as a front runner. And I'm not going to say that Angeria is not deserving of it. I would have probably put her third overall if we're judging here. But I definitely think that she's maybe going to get a leg up or two from, production where maybe it couldn't be justified for other people. So I won't shout Riggery just yet but I'm definitely shouting, I have questions, Rue, and there's photo evidence very clearly supporting against you. So, um, as far as that goes, whether or not it was clearly justified if they were the top two together, I do think it was. I mean, Angeria and Georgia both did well in the challenge. We can't blame either of them for the decision here. As far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with it. It's whatever. It's a TV show at the end of the day. I'm not going to scream. I don't care. And that much about it. As much as we'll sit here and harp on about possible riggery. So is what it is at the top two. But I was more just worried, are we going to get a good lip sync or not? And we end up getting a song I am surprised I kind of never heard of before. And I gotta say, Whitney Houston's $1 Million Bill was kind of a bop. I gotta say, Whitney has a lot of bops, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard of this song. So I like a lot of Whitney, but this isn't one of her, I think, feel like traditional songs that we generally think of when we come to Miss Whitney. What were your thoughts on how they did Whitney here? Did you think they did her justice? Whiskers, you could start.
I think Angeria did her justice. I think Angeria really embodied the song. She said she was gonna do a park and bark before, but she did a park and bark and some extra sauce in there. Like she was moving around, she was having fun with it. Um, when she like whipped out the handkerchief, that was a great moment, and she kind of kept that throughout. But just the energy was fun, and it was giving Whitney. Georges, we know she's gonna dance, and she does it well. But it didn't fit the song as much for me. But it was fun. I enjoyed the overall lip sync.
And Jack, what were your thoughts here?
I agree. I think the lip sync was pretty good overall. I do think that Angeria rightfully won this lip sync. She did like a better job. She captured more of the essence of the song, I guess. There were times where I really thought Georgia was going to win, but then there was a couple times where they used these like held out long notes. It's very beautiful when you're listening to a song like that, and you like expect someone to like really make something of it. And Georgia's is over here doing a trick or something, and I'm like, no, how dare you? Like, stop that. Like, she still did an amazing job. Don't get me wrong. Georgia did a great lip sync, but Angeria definitely took the win in this lip sync for me. And so I was happy with lip sync, except for the fact that I didn't think that was the two that should have been up there. Maybe one of the two should have been up there, but definitely not both of them. So,
Mhm.
I mean, good for like good lip sync overall. It's a good start. It's a good start lip sync because we have a pretty strong lip sync as the base. We hope that we don't get anything kind of weird like the TikTok mixes we got in season 16. I think everyone was like,
Oh, Bloody
okay,
Mary,
let's
no.
stop that. Right. Like, okay, that was cute for a try. Let's never do it again now.
Can I just say if there was actually I think I said this in my Drag Race 16 recap, but I still have the mindset. If she just recorded a faster version of Bloody Mary with her actual voice, it would be a bop. Like the song behind the beat behind that song, when it's sped up, it's actually pretty good. But I'm also like I hate the chipmunk voice. I hate it.
The
I hate it.
chipmunk voice is always bad. It's never good. There's never
It's
a moment
just
for chipmunk voice, not even an Elvin and the
uh
Chipmunks.
why? My gosh, I can't. So yeah, I would totally agree. I again, other than this being the two I didn't think that would be lip syncing here, I can't be upset at this first lip sync here. It was entertaining. I enjoyed the song. Might be on one of my new playlists now. I feel like I ultimately end up with a bunch of random songs on my playlist just because of Drag Race. But I enjoyed it, and I think initially when I was watching, I actually was a little more focused on Georges because, again, Georges is, I feel like, a lot more captivating in performance. But when it comes to lip syncing, again, you're right, it comes down to the essence of what they're giving in the song. And Angeria's everything about her was way more into the song than Georges did. I think I kind of was talking about this with Whiskers, but I kind of brought up this in my Espana recap in the fact that I feel like there's certain individuals that kind of get maybe stuck in a certain lip syncing style, and like that's how I felt with Jariji Dirkley. Like I love her to death, but she always does like the slow, sensual holiness to her sure lip syncs regardless if it fits the song. And I feel like that's kind of Georges here. Like Georges, while her moves are way entertaining, it's always, I feel like it's just energy versus like intention. And I feel like Angeria's movements and everything were much more intentional. So I can't disagree with Angeria winning this lip sync here. So what's kind of crazy here as we go into our next section here is the fact that we'll now have a blocking ahead of us. And as we know here, we have the Ruby Snippers, and Angeria now has to scissor one of her sisters and cut them off from receiving a badge. Angeria decides to give the snip to Miss Roxy, meaning she cannot win a beautiful Benefactress badge in our next episode. Now, my question for y'all here, and Jack, you can go here first. First off, did Angeria make the right decision? And two, who did you expect to be snipped?
Did Angeria make the correct decision? The answer is yes. She made the correct decision. Roxy is a threat in any challenge basically in this season. Though she's had her ups and downs in multiple seasons, she has been shown that she is pretty versatile when it comes to the challenges. And I would have to say that if I have to cut someone like randomly out of the blue, it would have to be either her or Plastique probably. And so for that alone, because we know Roxy has done better overall, I'm going with Roxy 1000%. I also think though that if like Plastic is less of a threat in the eyes of the competitors because yes, she does it great on social media, but we haven't seen her like really excel to the same point that some of the other girls have. You know, you could also call it the fact that maybe her season might have been harder than other people's seasons, but at the end of the day, she did not make it as far as a lot of the other cast. I wouldn't fear so much like a performance queen if you just did a performance challenge. So even though that kind of is only Georges and maybe Plastic to some extent, Plastic is not as big of a threat right now in your mind kind of thing about the next challenge as someone else like a Gottmik or a Roxy, someone who's going to probably excel in whatever is coming next. So I think Angeria 1000% made the correct decision.
Mm-hmm. And Wisk, how about you? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean Roxy out of everybody that could be blocked, I think probably was the best choice. I thought there was a chance that maybe like Nina would get blocked just because her strengths are so different from a lot of, or at least her clearest strengths are a lot different from a lot of the other contestants. So maybe they're thinking, okay, it was like a dance perform challenge. What if it's like an acting comedy challenge next? So I thought Nina maybe had an outside shot of being blocked there, but Roxy definitely makes sense because she is kind of an all around performer, like can handle whatever challenge is thrown at her. So I think for the first block of the season, kind of setting the tone, Roxy has the most history on the show out of all of these people. So that's you can kind of keep the most blood off of your hands by blocking her and just saying, yeah, like it's nothing personal, but you've just proven the most out of anybody here, and you've had the longest time on the show, so it makes the most sense to block you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I would definitely agree. And I feel like well, as we do this here, I'm going to bring up my well-made, beautiful benefactress badges tracker here, as we see as after episode one, Angeria, Van Michaels, and Georges are in the lead with one badge, and Gottmik, Nina, Plastique, Roxy, Chanel, and Vanjie have zero, with Roxy obviously being cut off in our next episode, having no chance to possibly get a star or yeah, a badge. So I do think y'all, I agree with y'all that I think that was probably Angeria's best move was to go after Roxy. I also do agree with what you said there with the case to go after Nina as well there too, Whiskers. Her strengths again are very different than everybody else's. So it seems like at some point, more than likely, even if Nina doesn't get blocked in the first episode or two, I could see her being blocked somewhere along the line early because I feel like if they go by like the standards of All Stars 7, they basically, for the most part, I wanted to say handed out a block to everybody to the for the most part, other than I think Jinx might have got blocked twice at one point. But I feel like they were very fair with their blocking here. I don't know if that'll be the case in this season. Would be kind of kind of sad to just see them just constantly block Roxy over and over and over and over again. Like I kind of hope that happens maybe in the season. Like I don't know who they would bring back for them to do it. I can't think off the top of my head anybody that I dislike for them enough to just troll them like that, but that'd be hilarious. But I don't want that to happen to Roxy here. I feel like Roxy has a great chance. Even though she is cut off early here, she still is somebody that I feel like the show is portraying as a huge threat in this game. And I do really feel like at this point, as far as from what I can gather from the edit, and I love to analyze the edit here, and generally, I feel like Drag Race is a lot more see through when it comes to the edit than it is to other shows. Um, for me, especially because they brought up and Juri and Georges being a pair, and Roxy and Plastique being a pair. It feels like to me like this season is going to kind of be like what they set up in the beginning here, as to whether or not one of these new school queens has what it takes to take out a veteran. And I feel like this is going to be a story of Angeria versus Roxy. And I do think that more than likely one of these two is going to be our winner. Maybe Plastique will sneak in there too. I need her to get a little bit more like storyline at this point, but she clearly is someone that the judges are not really. It feels invested in because they would have given her her flowers here. Hopefully, they are planning to make it up later to her because she's well deserved. But as far as where we kind of stand after the first episode and what my thoughts are on the initial premiere, I kind of feel like again it is going to be new schooler Angeria versus veteran Roxy. Who will win, and who will be the third jury goat and against them? As we tried to find out, like we did all season Survivor 46, and it turns out not to be Venus or Q. Um, Whiskers, do you have any thoughts here on where we kind of stand at the end of episode one?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of set a decently high bar. I think everybody kind of nobody really stood out as doing horrible across the board. And there's obviously a couple people now that are threats with Angeria and Georges being in the top. But I think there's a lot that's still open, and there's a lot to be seen, and obviously we have a lot more challenges to do. So I think it's easier to get, or it's harder to get a feel for it just off of this very first episode than maybe after like three or four episodes. Then we will have kind of had every type of challenge that we can get. And then like by then, obviously, I don't know how many episodes the season will be, but by then we'll kind of have some clear front runners. But yeah, I think I will be interested to see how this Angie versus Roxy storyline develops, especially because I like both of them quite a bit. So if they're fighting it out until the end, I definitely wouldn't mind watching that.
I wouldn't mind it either because they're definitely two of three or four people that I'm definitely very much so rooting for as far as the season goes. Honestly, I'm kind of rooting for everybody at this point. But Jack, I want to give you kind of the last words here. What are your thoughts as we head into episode two of the ninth season of Drag Race All Stars?
I kind of agree. I kind of think they're pushing Angeria and Roxy. Roxy, especially, I feel like had a lot of important moments with the editing, especially like in the workroom, in the confessionals. Like, you know, Roxy has had a decent amount of these, and she has like a long history. They even showed that the girls were like, "Can you believe we're in the workroom with the legendary Roxy Andrews?" And it goes to show that like Roxy is very well respected by her competitors, and the show is making it well known. So I do see a possibility of us getting Roxy versus Injury at the end. I think when the fan votes come into play, though, we're really going to see a lot of push for Plastique to also be there. So I think that's very possible as a top three. I do want to say I think we did see a couple people struggle a bit so far in a way, like Miss Vanjie, for example. Like, I love Vanjie, but in this first episode, outside of the performance, which she wasn't even in the top three, I don't think, for any of us, if I remember correctly. Uh, like, all of her looks have been pretty poorly done in comparison to the other queens. So I think we're gonna have to look out if she can like it, not improved necessarily, but maybe she brings out something more iconic, uh, more memorable than just her personality. Although charisma is a huge part of this competition. That being said, I think there's still a lot of wiggle room for a lot of girls. I know that Nina hasn't been showing us maybe the best. I mean, I know that a lot of people like Nina, and maybe it's just me, but I think overall she's kind of towards the bottom right now. And then it's interesting because we have people like Chanel who's doing a great job in like the looks department. Performance in this challenge was not great at all, but her looks were all good, and she's memorable for that alone. And we have some of the girls in the middle, and I'm hoping that Plastique gets her time to shine. I'm really hoping that they were just setting this up for Plastique not to get a badge early in the first episode because they needed to give a badge to Angeria. They needed to give the badge to Georges before, eventually some people, maybe like Georges, can't really get a badge in a lot of other challenges when we have such like strong threats here in almost every other category.
Yeah, I
So
could definitely see that. My apologies.
no, 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 you're good. That was it. I didn't have much more to say. I mean,
Well,
I
you
do,
know,
but like I
oh,
don't
go
have
for it, go for
enough.
it.
You know what I'm
Keep going,
saying?
keep going.
No, I don't got none. I don't need to say anything more. I'm just saying that, I think that I'm still calling the riggery of the season. It was rigorous, as Miss Alyssa called it. Um, and especially since Plastique is, you know, related to Miss Alyssa, we should use the rigor since it was against her, in my opinion. Um, but Plastique is killing it. I hope she keeps that up. I'm a little worried for Angeria because I remember on her season she did well in the beginning and then eventually she tapered off. And I didn't even think that, there was a time in her season that was the first top five we'd ever gotten, really. Outside of season 11, even that was still a top four. It's just controversial. Um, I still kind of see like Angeria fell apart after a certain point in the season. Will we see a similar effect this time where she does well early on, then she falls, and will she be able to re-break that? I don't know. Maybe that's a storyline they're going for. Georges took a while to get a win in her season and was constantly in the bottom a lot of the time. So maybe her starting off strong, is there a better chance? Who knows? But it did feel like they were trying to throw some people at us when we were all knowing something else was up.
Yeah, I kind of fully expect, just kind of based off of the season's theme, that we're gonna probably see, at least maybe to start with, a pretty equitable competition to the point where I think they're gonna kind of spread the wins around and kind of make everybody kind of feel good to some degree. I could see them maybe saving wins for other people in certain categories that they are more expected to do well in. At the same time, though, too, I always fear them being like, oh, well, so and so is going to do great in this kind of challenge. And then, we have like a Trixie and Snatch Game moment where they just flop and you think she's going to do great, but she flops terribly. So, there's a lot of good storylines I think that are set up here just kind of naturally, which I think just goes to kind of show the fact that they chose a really good cast. I think they did a really good job as far as like synergy goes here. Like, this is a group I'm very interested in seeing interacting together, which doesn't happen very often. And I think if we're not going to, get a season full of drama, I love the fact that at least it's going to be a season of queens that are all really rootable, that are all very talented, that all have, storylines of things where they can clearly improve in. And it's kind of giving me a lot of what I want from an all-star season very early, other than the fact that, maybe we might not get the juicy drama. Um, but I don't think we necessarily need the drama all the time. Maybe this is, after season 16. It could be a good palate cleanser after we've had one of the most, dramatic seasons, in the general franchise here. That maybe we have an all-star season that's the complete opposite. That's like a really good representation of what Drag Race has to offer here. So. I'm very optimistic. It sounds like we're all pretty optimistic here, and if y'all out there listening, because we're closing in on almost 2 hours here. We just passed the 150 mark, so I think we might go ahead and call it here now that we've had our final words. But I'm very excited again to start this All Stars journey with both you, Jack and Whiskers, as well as Cody, as well as possible some other special guests that we might have along the way. But as far as everything goes here, I think we're off to a great start. And again, if you enjoyed it out there and you listen in, make sure you listen to a part 3 of our premiere podcast because I forgot. Well, I didn't forget here because I watched it all last night and it was the longest experience, like the best longest experience of my life. But we got 2 episodes for the drop here, which was very exciting that they did that. So we get a lot more content we can digest right away. And so we'll have our episode 2 podcast up momentarily. Go make sure you check that out. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And again, on behalf of Jack and Whiskers tonight, my name is Renegayde, as always, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!
Bye.
Bye, sisters.